The MacBook slammed shut. Olivia sighed, rubbing her temples as the expensive Patek Philippe watch on her wrist showed 3 in the afternoon. Through the glass wall of her office, she could see the silhouette of her 7-year-old daughter sitting in the waiting area, drawing quietly. Emma couldn't hear the sound, didn't know her mother was watching. 2 parallel worlds. The Tesla glided through city streets. In the rearview mirror, Olivia noticed Emma staring out the window, her eyes distant. When their gazes met, Olivia quickly forced a smile. Emma didn't smile back. The corner office on the 35th floor had become Olivia's second home. Every morning, she arrived before sunrise, her tailored suits and perfectly styled hair projecting the confidence expected of a CEO. Between conference calls and board meetings, she'd glance at the framed photo on her desk, Emma at 5, before the divorce. Sometimes, Olivia wondered if she was failing at the one job that mattered most. The specialists and therapists all said the same thing. Emma needed consistency, routine, and most importantly, better communication tools. Yet 2 years after the diagnosis, they still relied mostly on an iPad app and hastily scribbled notes. "We're making progress with the cochlear implant evaluation," Olivia told her assistant, scanning through the latest email from the specialist. "The technology is incredible these days." Emma could potentially hear within months. What she didn't say was how Emma had thrown a tantrum at their last appointment, refusing to even enter the examination room. Or how the specialists had gently suggested focusing on sign language first. "That's just accepting defeat," Olivia had replied. She couldn't accept limitations. Not in business. Not in life. And certainly not for her daughter. The divorce had been quick but devastating. Emma's father had simply walked away, claiming he wasn't equipped to handle a special needs child. His absence was another wound that Olivia couldn't heal, another failure she couldn't fix with determination and resources. She compensated by working harder, earning more, providing Emma with every possible advantage. Private schools, the best doctors, cutting-edge assistive devices. Everything except the one thing that might have mattered most. Learning to communicate in Emma's world instead of forcing Emma to adapt to hers. Every night followed the same routine. Olivia would help Emma with homework using the tablet, then read her a story, pointing at pictures since Emma couldn't hear her voice. Sometimes, she caught her daughter looking at her hands as she gestured, as though waiting for something more. Something Olivia didn't know how to give. Technology will bridge the gap, she reassured herself. We just need to find the right tools. But deep down, a small voice whispered that perhaps the tools she sought were literally at her fingertips. The Nest Café wasn't Olivia's usual type of establishment. Its mismatched furniture and walls covered in children's artwork lacked the sleek sophistication of her regular haunts. But the Saturday afternoon crisis at work had left her with no choice but to bring Emma along, and this cafe near the office had a children's creative corner. Now, with the emergency handled, Olivia ordered a cappuccino for herself and a smoothie for Emma, setting up her laptop to answer emails while Emma played with the tablet. The girl's eyes, however, kept drifting toward the art area where other children were molding clay and painting. Jack had chosen the corner table out of habit. He and Noah always sat where they could see the entire cafe, giving Noah a sense of security in knowing no one would approach from behind, a common courtesy in deaf culture that hearing people rarely understood. His son was focused on shaping a small bird from clay, his nimble fingers working with the precision of a natural artist. "That looks amazing," Jack signed, his hands dancing through the air. Noah's face lit up with pride as he added final details to the tiny wings. At 8 years old, his creativity already surpassed Jack's, though as a children's book illustrator, Jack had taught him everything he knew about art. The loss of Noah's mother 3 years ago had reshaped their world completely. Jack had already been learning sign language since Noah's diagnosis at age 2, but becoming a single father accelerated his immersion into deaf culture. He'd discovered that deafness wasn't the tragedy he'd initially feared, but rather the entrance to a rich, visual world, with its own language and customs. His illustration work had taken on new dimensions, too, as he began creating books that featured deaf characters and sign language. The painful past had somehow carved a meaningful path forward for both of them. Jack noticed the woman and her daughter the moment they entered. Corporate type, he guessed, expensive clothes, constantly checking her phone, that familiar look of barely contained stress. But it was the little girl who caught his attention. The way she watched everyone's hands, the subtle tension in her shoulders, the careful observation, he recognized these signs immediately. Noah had spotted her too, his eyes curious, as he watched her reluctantly accept the tablet her mother handed her. "I think she might be deaf," Noah signed to his father. Jack nodded. "Maybe. But I don't think they use sign language." Emma couldn't take her eyes off the boy and the man at the corner table. Their hands moved in patterns that seemed like magic, flowing, expressive, purposeful. She recognized some signs from her school, where she'd picked up basics without her mother knowing. The iPad felt heavy and cold in her hands. She typed a message, showing it to her mother. "Can I go to the art area?" Olivia hesitated, then nodded. 15 minutes, then we need to go home for study time. Emma slid off her chair and headed toward the creative corner, leaving the technology behind. The clay felt cool and pliable in Emma's hands. She wasn't sure what she wanted to make, but the sensation was calming. She didn't notice when Noah approached, jumping slightly when he tapped her shoulder to get her attention. He smiled apologetically, then signed a simple greeting. Emma recognized it from videos she'd secretly watched online, and shyly signed hello back. Noah's eyes widened with delight, and he immediately showed her the clay bird he'd made. Emma pointed to it and signed beautiful, one of the few signs she knew. Olivia looked up from her laptop, instantly alert when she saw a strange boy interacting with Emma. She watched tensely as they exchanged what appeared to be rudimentary signs. Her daughter's face held an animation she rarely saw at home. Still, protective instincts flared, and she quickly crossed the cafe. "Emma, is everything okay?" she asked, forgetting momentarily that her daughter couldn't hear her. Flustered, she reached for her phone to type the question, but Emma was already pointing excitedly to the boy's clay sculpture. The boy looked up at Olivia and signed something she couldn't understand. The confusion must have shown on her face, because seconds later, a tall man with gentle eyes approached. "I think Noah is asking if your daughter would like to make a bird too," he explained, while simultaneously signing to the boy. He noticed she might be deaf as well. Olivia stiffened. "She is hearing impaired, yes. We're exploring cochlear implant options." The man nodded without judgment, though something flickered in his eyes. "I'm Jack, and this is my son Noah," he said, extending his hand. "Olivia," she replied, shaking it briefly. "And this is Emma." She noticed how Jack signed their names to Noah as he spoke them aloud. "Your sign language is very good," she commented, trying to mask her discomfort with politeness. Jack smiled. "It's our primary language at home. Noah was born deaf, and I started learning when he was diagnosed." He turned to Emma and signed slowly, deliberately, showing her each movement. To Olivia's surprise, Emma attempted to copy him, her small hands awkward but eager. "She knows sign language?" Olivia asked, unable to hide her shock. Jack kept his focus on Emma, as he answered. "Just basics, it seems. But children learn quickly when they're motivated." He demonstrated another sign to Emma, who repeated it with growing confidence. "This means bird," he explained to Olivia. "She's telling Noah she likes his creation." Olivia watched, a complex emotion building in her chest, part amazement at her daughter's hidden knowledge, part shame that a stranger could communicate with Emma more effectively than she could. For the next 10 minutes, Olivia stood rooted to the spot as Jack facilitated a simple conversation between Noah and Emma. Her daughter's face had transformed, animated, engaged, expressive in ways Olivia had never witnessed. When Emma laughed, a sound rare enough to make Olivia's heart catch, the businesswoman found herself blinking back unexpected tears. "We have a sign language class for parents on Wednesday evenings," Jack mentioned casually as they prepared to leave. "Many find it helps bridge the communication gap." He handed her a business card with the class details. Olivia tucked the card into her purse with a non-committal thank you, already formulating reasons why her schedule wouldn't permit such an indulgence. Yet as they drove home, she kept glancing in the rearview mirror at Emma, who was sketching frantically in her notebook. The girl's energy had shifted. There was a lightness to her that hadn't been there before. At a red light, Emma held up her drawing, 2 children, and a clay bird. She pointed to herself, then made the sign for bird that Jack had taught her. Olivia nodded, forcing a smile while an uncomfortable realization settled in her stomach. That night, after Emma was asleep, Olivia found herself drawn to her daughter's sketchbook. She had never paid much attention to Emma's drawings before. They were just a hobby, a way to keep her occupied. But now, turning the pages carefully, she saw a visual diary of her daughter's inner world. There were countless drawings of people with their hands in various positions. Drawings of Olivia always showed her with a phone or laptop, while Emma stood apart, her expression solemn. One drawing showed a bird trapped in a glass box, wings spread but unable to fly. Olivia downloaded a sign language app that night, determined to learn at least a few basic signs before Emma woke. But an urgent email from the Tokyo office demanded immediate attention, and before she knew it, dawn was breaking. The app remained unused, her good intentions once again buried beneath the avalanche of professional responsibilities that never seemed to end. "Tomorrow," she promised herself, closing her laptop. "I'll start tomorrow." It was a promise she had made many times before. 2 weeks passed with only minimal progress on Olivia's part, a few memorized signs, quickly forgotten in the crush of daily demands. Then came the school talent show invitation. Emma's class would be performing a song in sign language, and parents were encouraged to attend. Olivia rescheduled 3 meetings to ensure she could be there. Ignoring her assistant's panicked expressions as she prioritized Emma over work for perhaps the first time since the divorce. The auditorium lights dimmed as Emma's class took the stage. 15 children stood in formation, their faces solemn with concentration. When the music began, their hands started moving in unison, a choreographed dance of meaning that told a story Olivia couldn't understand. In the center stood Emma. Her movements precise and confident, her face alive with expression. Olivia felt her throat tighten. Her daughter belonged to a world she had never bothered to enter, speaking a language she had never bothered to learn. After the performance, Olivia spotted Jack and Noah in the audience. Of course, Noah must attend the same school. She watched as Emma ran to greet them, her hands flying in excited signs that Jack answered with equal enthusiasm. Something sharp twisted in Olivia's chest as she approached the small group. "That was beautiful," she said awkwardly. "I had no idea Emma knew so many signs." Jack translated her words to Noah, who grinned and signed something back. "He says Emma has been practicing hard," Jack explained. "They've been helping each other at recess." Olivia swallowed her pride. "I still haven't managed to attend your class," she admitted. "Work has been." She trailed off, the excuse sounding hollow even to her own ears. Jack nodded without judgment. "The next one is tomorrow evening. If you're interested, we always welcome new parents." His kindness only made Olivia feel worse. Here was a single father who had managed to learn an entire language for his child, while she, with all her resources, hadn't been able to spare a few hours a week. That night, Emma proudly showed Olivia a drawing of their house with something new added, a bird feeder outside her bedroom window. She pointed to it, then made the sign for bird again, followed by another sign Olivia didn't recognize. Frustrated, Emma grabbed her tablet and typed, "I want to watch birds like Noah does. He can feel them singing through vibrations on the window." Olivia stared at the message, a realization dawning. Her daughter wasn't just learning to communicate. She was discovering a whole way of experiencing the world that Olivia had never considered valid. The next evening, Olivia found herself sitting awkwardly in a community center classroom, surrounded by other parents of deaf children. Jack, standing at the front of the room, seemed surprised but pleased to see her. "We'll start with introductions," he signed and spoke simultaneously. "Please share your name and why you're learning ASL." When Olivia's turn came, she felt a vulnerability she hadn't experienced since childhood. "I'm Olivia," she said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. "I'm here because I think I've been trying to fix something that isn't broken." The class was both harder and easier than Olivia had expected. Her CEO brain, accustomed to mastering complex business strategies, struggled with the spatial grammar of ASL. Yet there was something intuitive about the expressions, the emotional components that transcended the technical aspects of the language. Jack was a patient teacher, never drawing attention to her mistakes, always encouraging the smallest progress. By the end of the session, she could introduce herself, ask basic questions, and express simple emotions. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. Walking to their cars afterward, Jack mentioned casually that he and Noah visited the city park every Saturday morning to watch birds. "Noah feels their songs through the wooden gazebo floor," he explained. "Emma might enjoy it too, if you're free." Olivia should have said no. Her Saturdays were reserved for catching up on work, preparing for the week ahead. Instead, she heard herself accepting the invitation, something unfamiliar and warm unfurling in her chest when Jack smiled in response. The park was alive with spring color when Olivia and Emma arrived that Saturday. Noah spotted them first, waving enthusiastically from the gazebo where he and Jack were setting up a bird feeder. Emma ran ahead, her excitement palpable. Olivia followed more slowly, feeling oddly out of place in her casual clothes, without the armor of professional attire she usually wore. Jack greeted her with a signed good morning that she managed to return, earning an approving smile from Emma that was worth every moment of studying she'd done that week. For 2 hours, Olivia witnessed a world of communication she'd never imagined. Jack and Noah taught Emma how to feel the vibrations of bird wings through the wooden railings. They showed her how to identify different species by their colors and movements. Most remarkably, they demonstrated how to communicate without making noise that would scare the birds away, using ASL, not just as a necessity, but as an advantage. Emma's face shone with discovery and belonging. She wasn't disabled here, she was perfectly adapted. Watching her daughter bloom under this new perspective, Olivia felt something crack inside her, the rigid shell of expectations and solutions she'd built around herself and Emma. "I've been approaching this all wrong, haven't I?" she asked Jack quietly as the children fed breadcrumbs to chickadees. He considered her question carefully before answering. "You've been doing what most parents do, trying to give your child every advantage. There's nothing wrong with that." He paused, watching Noah teach Emma a new bird sign. "But sometimes the greatest advantage is acceptance." The conversation continued over coffee while the children explored a nearby playground. Olivia learned that Jack had once been an advertising executive before changing careers to illustration after Noah's birth. "I needed flexibility, and I needed to understand Noah's visual world," he explained. "Best decision I ever made, even though the pay cut was significant." Olivia couldn't imagine voluntarily stepping away from her career trajectory, yet something in Jack's contentment made her wonder what she might be missing in her relentless pursuit of success. Spring turned to summer, and the Saturday bird-watching sessions became a regular fixture in their lives. Emma's sketchbook filled with colorful birds and people signing, but now Olivia appeared in these drawings with her hands moving too, no longer separate from Emma's world. The school reported improvements in Emma's social interaction and academic performance. "She seems happier," her teacher noted during a conference. "More engaged. Whatever changes you've made at home are really working." The changes were subtle but profound. 15 minutes of sign practice each night, no matter how exhausted Olivia might be. An ASL storytelling session before bedtime. A visual schedule on the refrigerator with signs next to each activity. Most significantly, a shift in Olivia's mindset, from seeing Emma's deafness as a problem to solve, to recognizing it as simply another way of being in the world. She still pursued medical consultations and technological options, but these were now choices to consider rather than solutions to implement at all costs. Jack became an unexpected ally in this journey. His experience navigating the deaf education system saved Olivia countless hours of research. His gentle suggestions helped her avoid the pitfalls of well-intentioned but misguided interventions. And his friendship provided something she hadn't realized she was missing. Someone who understood the unique challenges of raising a deaf child alone. If her assistant noticed the increasing frequency of texts from Emma's sign teacher, she was professional enough not to comment. The corporate board meeting fell on the same day as Emma's end-of-year school presentation. 6 months ago, Olivia wouldn't have hesitated. The meeting would have taken priority, with perhaps a promise to watch a video recording of Emma's performance later. But as she sat in her office, calendar open before her, the decision felt different now. The company would continue whether she attended this particular meeting or not. Emma's childhood, however, wouldn't wait. She called her VP of operations and delegated the presentation, ignoring his poorly concealed surprise. The school auditorium was packed with parents when Olivia arrived, spotting Jack saving her a seat near the front. Emma's class had prepared a signed story about a bird who couldn't fly, but discovered other unique abilities instead. When Emma stepped forward for her solo part, the moment when the bird realizes its powerful vision can help other animals, Olivia found herself perfectly understanding every sign. Pride swelled in her chest, not just for Emma's performance but for her own journey to this moment of comprehension. After the performance, the principal approached Olivia with an unexpected request. "We're expanding our deaf education program next year," she explained. "We'd love to have a parent representative on the advisory board. Someone with business experience who could help us secure funding and resources." Olivia hesitated only briefly before accepting. It would mean redistributing some of her workload, perhaps even stepping back from certain projects. 6 months ago, such a suggestion would have been unthinkable. Now, it felt like the most natural decision in the world. Summer vacation brought new opportunities for connection. Emma attended a deaf camp for 2 weeks, returning with dozens of new signs and friends from across the country. Olivia took 3 unprecedented days off work to visit Jack's family cabin by the lake, where Noah taught Emma to canoe and fish using visual cues and tactile sensations. Watching the children communicate effortlessly across the water, Olivia turned to Jack. "Thank you," she signed, the movement now as natural as speech, "for showing me what I was missing." His response caught her off guard, not just the words, but the depth of feeling behind them. "You found your way. I just pointed to the path." Their hands fell silent as something unspoken passed between them. Later, as they sat on the dock watching the sunset while the children caught fireflies along the shore, Jack's hand found hers. Olivia couldn't remember the last time she'd allowed herself such a simple human connection. The CEO who planned every business move with strategic precision found herself embracing the unplanned joy of this moment. The changes rippled outward from Olivia's personal transformation. Her company launched a diversity initiative, hiring several deaf employees and providing ASL training for staff. She approved flexible schedules for parents of children with special needs, remembering her own struggles to balance work and Emma's appointments. The board raised eyebrows at first, but the resulting boost in employee loyalty and productivity silenced most criticism. One afternoon, she caught her reflection in the office window, and barely recognized the woman looking back, still polished and professional, but with a softness around the eyes that hadn't been there before. Emma's next IEP meeting brought another surprise. The audiologist and speech therapist exchanged glances before presenting their findings. Emma's progress with sign language has been exceptional, the specialist began cautiously. We believe she might be a good candidate for cochlear implants now, but, he hesitated, clearly expecting resistance. But the decision should be Emma's, when she's old enough to understand the implications. Olivia nodded, feeling Jack's approving presence beside her. We'll continue with ASL as her primary language, then, she agreed. And leave future options open. The changes weren't always smooth. Olivia still caught herself reaching for technological solutions first, still occasionally treated Emma's deafness as an obstacle rather than a difference. There were arguments with relatives who couldn't understand why she'd given up on making Emma hear. There were difficult days when communication broke down despite their best efforts, when the gulf between their experiences seemed unbridgeable. But these moments no longer felt like failures, just part of the ongoing journey of understanding. 1 year after their first encounter at the Nest Café, Olivia and Emma returned with Jack and Noah to celebrate. Emma's sketchbook now contained detailed drawings of birds, with their ASL signs carefully labeled beneath each one. Olivia could follow most of the rapid conversation between Noah and Emma, occasionally asking Jack for clarification on unfamiliar signs. As they shared a dessert, Emma tapped the table to get everyone's attention. Slowly, deliberately, she signed. "Thank you for teaching my mother to listen with her eyes." Olivia felt tears threatening but managed to sign back. "Thank you for your patience while I learned." Jack's hand found hers under the table, a touch that had become familiar and essential over the months. Emma's eyes missed nothing, and she exchanged a knowing glance with Noah before signing something too quick for Olivia to catch. Jack laughed, refusing to translate despite Olivia's protests. Some things, it seemed, were still private between the children, as it should be. Later that evening, as Emma slept and Olivia prepared for an early meeting, she found herself drawn to her daughter's newest drawing on the refrigerator. It showed 4 figures holding hands beneath a tree full of birds, 2 adults, 2 children, all connected. No phones, no laptops, no barriers. Just a family, not defined by blood but by understanding. Olivia traced the signed love in the corner of the drawing, remembering how impossible such connection had once seemed. The emails could wait until morning, she decided, closing her laptop. Success had meant something very specific to Olivia for most of her life: measurable, quantifiable, visible on spreadsheets and annual reports. Now she understood a different kind of achievement, one that couldn't be charted or presented to shareholders. It lived in Emma's confident hands as they shaped words in the air. It resonated in the silent laughter they now shared. It grew in the space between what she had always thought she wanted and what she had actually needed all along, not to fix her daughter, but to truly see her. Outside Emma's window, a bird feeder swung gently in the evening breeze. Waiting for morning visitors that would wake her with vibrations she could feel rather than sounds she could hear. In the quiet darkness, Olivia signed to herself. Perfect, just as you are. Some lessons, she had learned, don't require words at all.